Hey guys, it's Lewpac here, back with another Albion Online video. Today we have a hardcore expedition tutorial video for you, for one of the harder maps actually, Preaching to the Dead. Now just a reminder for the rules of my tutorial series, I aim to bring you a simple run with as few skips as possible. Most of the maps can be completed with no skipping and skip sets, some of them like Fistful do need them. But in the tutorial series, I aim to have as little skipping as possible. All of the maps will be done with a pickup group, no voice comms, me tanking, and they will be completed at a minimum map level of 7. This Preaching, I think it might be a level 8. It's either a 7 or an 8, I'm not entirely sure. One thing you'll notice is I am using my pole hammer tank build, and the reason for this is there's lots of skeleton pools where you don't want to go into the middle of them to stun them like a one-handed hammer would have to. So the pole hammer actually lets you stun them from a distance without actually taking too much damage, which then lets your team set up the AoE. You'll see my group composition is a one-handed curse with a crypt candle, a one-hand holy, or life, was it a one-hand holy I believe, with a mist cooler. We have a pair of bolt casters on Gur, and we have a blazing staff. So a big range DPS comp, some nice armor piercing abilities, and then me in the tank position. This first tricky pool we're coming up to here, there's actually a patrolling archer who goes from gate to gate. You'll see him just after we killed these two. You want to wait till he patrols away before you pull the 2 skeleton archers, because 3 archers can be really tricky. We've seen these archers in a few other instances. They've got that line arrow, which is very, very easy to avoid, but they've also got that really annoying rain of arrows ability. It can't be interrupted, it lands very quickly, it's very random. And honestly, the only thing you can do when the rain of arrows comes is have your teammates sort of dancing around, not standing in place too long, so that they can avoid it. Fighting 3 at the same time can be super, super tricky, obviously, because they're just going to rain so many arrows, people are bound to get hit. And when they do hit you, it also applies a poison, which creates even more pressure for your healer. Coming up to this first area of the graveyard then, some people like to skip around to the left and try and fit in a little nook that's up there. But for my simple clear, I just like to bulldoze straight up the middle. Honestly, if your group's on point and your run is clean, you should be able to complete a 7 or 8 without anything too fancy, which in my mind is a good demonstration of a fair and balanced map. I'm using heavy smash to generate a bit of aggro here. We've just got to take down this skeleton. Now, we've seen these skeleton warriors in lurking underneath. You will have seen them in Eternal Battle. They've got a reasonably powerful auto attack, and every now and again they'll do a big cleave ability. Now, the cleave is actually a really nice ability, because if everybody steps out of the way of it, the skeleton warrior will then stand there and cleave for a little while without actually hitting anyone, and he won't even be doing auto attack damage. You'll see there I use the skeleton to body pull the next warrior without grabbing his little archer buddy. Block to tank that damage. One thing to notice is that big red skull over the enemies. When the death curse goes off, especially with the armor debuffs, that one-handed curse staff is insane single target damage. And on top of that, it's a 15-second cooldown, so it can be applied quite a lot. There you see I pulled the next 2 mobs as we get in towards the end of the skeleton. If you want to get a nice fast run, as a tank, it's your job to you need to know what your group can handle, and you need to pull stuff as early as possible, because time is of the essence. You also notice, one thing we sort of discovered while doing runs today, is when you're queuing for a map, after everybody's accepted the queue and it's popped, you have to press start immediately, because that time where you're pressing start and channeling to join is actually taking away from your map timer. So if you're slow at joining, you can actually lose a minute of the map run time and potentially lose your bonus map. One more skeleton has to go out before we come into the graveyard. Pull the 3 little skeletons. You see, getting them into the blazing AoE means that they'll drop very, very quickly. He's going to cleave there so that we can go off, pull these next skeletons, and by dashing around you'll see that I can set up a line stun without the skeletons ever doing any damage to me. then I just leave it to my team to drop the aggro. So for AoE, we do have those explosive bolts on the boltcaster, and of course the fireball and blazing staff, as well as the piercing beam on the curse. So quite a few options for AoE, not a massive AoE lineup, but honestly, once you start to do a higher level of hardcore expedition, it's all about the single target damage. Next in the instance, we're going to see the Scorpion. Now the Scorpions are quite an annoying mob. You'll see they do that sort of chain hook, hence the name. I think that's a bit of a tribute to Mortal Kombat's character Scorpion, who used to shout, "Get over here," when he hooked somebody. Nice to see little Easter eggs like that in the game. After he pulls somebody in, he'll do an uninterruptible AoE slam. It's not too frightening, to be honest with you, but it definitely will do some damage if you don't dodge it. He's not able to be stunned or any sort of CC while he's doing that slam, so if you are running a stun tank build, you're going to want to actually wait until after the AoE and time it perfectly with the stun. Next up is another little pack of skeletons and haunted swordsmen. Nothing too much to worry about there. And then this isn't a invisibility skip, but there is a couple of mobs you can skip in the next section. You're going to need to kill the 2 patrolling swordsmen, but you'll see here that there's an archer, and that archer's actually linked to the Scorpion. If you accidentally pull the archer, you will pull the Scorpion as well, which really can slow you down. Up in that little nook is a treasure chest, so you may well be coming back here after you finish the map. But when you're trying to speed through, you probably don't want to be going in there unless you have to. I actually messed up my pull slightly there. I could have used the skeleton to pull the archer out the way, but you can hard avoid it. So we managed to grab the 2 skeletons and the swordsman on their own. Drop those out the way with a lot of damage. You know, my group is definitely getting through these mobs very, very quickly. So I'm not too worried about the run. So far, we've not had any major mistakes or anybody die. And obviously, they just need to slip through this skeleton with me. I would say this is actually my fault, to be honest, what happens here. Like, I run through. The guys are never going to make it. But Patchy the Pirate, he actually aggroes the archer. And quick thinking from him, he actually uses his stealth boots. The archer then locks onto somebody else, but the Scorpion resets. So an interesting mechanic there if you want to use that. But honestly, you can just wait for the archer to go back into that little room, and you can all slip by if you're willing to wait sort of 10-15 seconds. In the meantime, while we're fighting the archer, I'm perfectly happy to just grab the skeletons out of the next little area of the graveyard. That just means we're going to be a bit faster when we get through. The skeleton warrior on the left here, actually can be skipped. You just have to slip down the side. Again, I don't mind skipping mobs that you don't have to pull. What I'm trying not to show in my tutorial videos is the invisibility skips that people love to do. Now you'll see here this boss is very tricky. I waited there for the patrolling swordsman to go, the patrolling archer to go up near the boss's adds, and I pulled the 2 adds using a body pull. So I taunted the patrol when he was in range of the other 2 and pulled them away without pulling the boss. Now the reason for this is fighting 2 archers plus the mini boss at the same time is very, very difficult. They all hit very hard. 3 archers, as you can see, was hard enough for us. One of them being a boss is likely to result in at least 1 or 2 people dying. Some people like to actually continue before they do the mini boss and activate the respawn pod in the next room. But I'm quite happy here with my group so far, so I took the risk. I saw the opportunity to do the body pull, and now we get to face the boss with only a couple of skeleton adds, so that's no bother. This boss has a little Conal Attack. You'll see every now and again he fires his arrows in a cone. It does a moderate amount of damage. The tank shouldn't be too worried, but to be honest, there's no reason not to dodge it. You shouldn't be putting unnecessary pressure on your healer. This guy also does the rain of arrows, but it's a stronger version than the normal archers, so be very careful of that. And he's very, very flaky with his aggro. He seems to reset and drop aggro a lot. So, I mean, I put on taunt for the body pull, but I would recommend whatever chest you're running, I would recommend running Taunt for this boss, because he's very flaky and he likes to target whoever he feels like. Onwards then, and we're going to find our first encounter with the Haunted Deathmongers, who are the ice mages of this instance. You see there's one coming from below here. My group actually opts to kill the archer first, simply because it's closer. Now, I prefer to kill the mages because they do a hell of a lot more damage, but with the speed they're killing things, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna split hairs over it. They do a ice bolt, which then causes an AoE explosion every now and again. And once they get low, you'll see they do an AoE hailstorm, which the melees have to get out. So this is where having 3 range DPS really pays off in this instance. Into the respawn room. As I said, sometimes when people are doing the mini-boss, you'll actually notice that they want to clear into this room and activate this in case the mini-boss goes wrong. That's pretty advisable at higher levels because the mini-boss can kill you. And if you don't do that first, it's a very long run to get anybody that dies back in the action. Put all the skeletons, stun them, kill this guy. And now this ends into the actual church graveyard. And this is a weird one because everybody kind of has a different way of doing this. With 8 minutes 20 to go though, I'm going to show you my sort of slow and steady method where you do want to kill quite a few things. This is where a lot of people like to skip straight through with the invis boots to the next checkpoint and just kill all deathmongers, kill the deathmongers to get your count up and then skip through. But honestly, if you know the way through, it's not too bad. So you get the skeletons down from the high ground. You're going to use Taunt ability here to do some body pulling and get some people out into position. So you'll see if I taunt one of the central skeletons, it'll pull all of the middle skeletons out of the way, and that will start to clear a path for us. The skeletons on their own aren't particularly difficult, so I do use this opportunity to pull the patrolling Deathmonger, because he often has a tendency to latch onto somebody, and being a clothy with very, very low resistances, the Deathmongers are seriously easy to kill with single target fire. There's another Deathmonger coming from behind, so just because we need to get him down, I'm going to grab him as well, and we'll get him stunned up nicely with the Dread-Laden stun. His normal frost bolts are interruptible. However, his big channel when he drops low on HP is an uninterruptible ability. Use this opportunity to grab the 2 patrolling swordsmen, bring them back. Again, if you've cleared an area with your group, always be bringing additional mobs back to the nice clear area. Don't try and fight in a confined space. Don't try and push forward and fight the mobs in the middle of all those skeletons, because I guarantee someone will focus on dodging an AoE and they will end up pulling some more stuff. If you already have a nice big open space to fight mobs in, just make use of it. It makes no sense to not make use of it, of course. So yeah, there's definitely worth doing. Next, we're going to be pulling this swordsman, or waiting for this swordsman to get out the way so that we can go through. Now, this is the one that everybody seems to get wrong. You can, as you see from what I do, you can run through without pulling everything, but somebody always pulls that archer on the right. It just, I very rarely see anybody get through this one without any hassle. So we're going to bring him back up here and get him stunned. No problem. And that's a nice, easy way to do it. You've got a couple of patrolling swordsmen around here as well, so we want to grab this one. And also we want to grab this one off the stairs. Because the swordsmen have that big cleave, there's nothing too bad with these guys. You can always just dodge those cleaves. They have a lot of DPS downtime, so at most levels, tanking 2 of these at the same time is fine. We do accidentally, I'm just a little bit too far forward, and I do end up with the Haunted Knight as well. But luckily, one of the swordsmen goes down just in time, and I still have my block ability available. So, quite comfortable coming up to the final church with 5 minutes remaining. No silly invis skips, just a nice clean clear. My team's doing a good job. Now these big guys. We haven't seen these guys yet, the Haunted Knights. These are one of the toughest enemies here. They've got a lot of armor and quite a lot of HP, to be fair. But they are fairly easy to bring down. They have one big line ability that does quite a lot of damage and knocks people back. But it's very, very big and very, very obvious. So as long as your team is ready to swap sides, you'll easily be able to take care of it. If it's not dodged, the ability definitely can wipe your party though, so be careful. Moving into the main church then, the final area, you've got a nice bunch of skeletons in a big line for you with one archer in the middle. There is actually a patrol going up and down that's one of the casters, I believe, so you want to be a bit careful. If you do pull them all together, it's not too bad, but you've got to be careful because they will hit very, very hard at the same time. As we move up, you've got two more casters in the central room. And you actually can use the skeletons. By taunting them, you can pull them out of the way. You can get one caster at a time. The patrol actually is the swordsman, not the caster. But obviously we killed him when he was at the bottom of the stairs. That's what I meant about when you come into the main room. The first caster goes down all right. And here you'll see I can pull the next caster. It does actually end up getting a big Haunted Knight as well, which isn't ideal but isn't the end of the world. Now again, we are going to do a nice body pull here because the last boss in Preaching is super, super difficult if you try and engage him with his adds. I could almost guarantee that somebody will go down on the first engage because two casters plus this boss just hits so damn hard. Now, you'll see there's a specific point where you can do this. You want to hit this swordsman patrol here. You want to pull him with the two caster adds, but not pull the boss. And the place to do that is just as he gets onto the staircase. I think it's about halfway up the staircase, as you're about to see. Just there, you can actually pull the two casters. I have to actually sidestep so that I don't pull the knight as well. That would pretty much be a wipe. And I use the block helm to mitigate the damage. Using the pole hammer as well, I'm able to put them into a lovely little clump to get our AoEs down. We've got the bolt casters firing the bolts. And you really do need to make sure you're getting one of the casters down as quick as possible. The swordsman is the lowest priority because, as we previously said, he does a lot of damage downtime where he's not hitting anybody as long as people step out of those cleaves, whereas the casters are very, very high damage output, so you want to be super careful with them. Just finished this swordsman then, and it's on to the boss. Only 2 minutes remaining on this run, so it is going to be tight, but I think we can do it just about and get that bonus map. For this boss, he isn't able to be stunned in any meaningful way. So you will see I switch to my traditional boss tanker, the Incubus Mace with the Cative Shield, because I can shrink him and drop his energy. I can use Interrupt on his Frostbolts if I wish, but honestly you're better off just dodging them. I mean, you can just see on his own, you'll be able to see the amount of damage this boss does to me, and this is only at level 8. I am a fairly high spec tank. I've got 100 in Guardian armor, 100 in Knight's armor, 80 in Soldier's armor, so you know, I'm pretty tanky, and he still is taking massive chunks out of me. Again, Taunt is a necessity because he does have a tendency to get distracted and hit all your buddies. Because he's a caster, he doesn't have much resistances, so you will burn him down very quickly, but he's also hitting you very, very hard. The Knight's Boots for the shield, all of those things are helping. Like the other casters, he time to time does that AoE Glacial Rain that you have to step out of. He does his channeled Frostbolt, and then that triggers his big Frostbomb AoE. You just have to dodge the AoEs basically, tank and spank, and a very, very simple boss really. But there you have it, guys. That's the simple walkthrough for Preaching for the Dead. Obviously, I'll have some high-level advanced videos coming soon with the big invisibility skips and stuff that people are doing. But for the tutorial series, I'm aiming to keep it simple and show you runs that everybody can do. Right, well, join me next time for another video, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.